Over here, I'm keeping this one, so the rest of these aren't necessary any longer. I'll keep that one as well, just because it's kind of giving me a T branch up here, so I don't know. But that's kind of my philosophy on branch selection. Instead of sitting here having you guys listen to me talk to myself about this, don't want to bore you too much. I just want to give you the basics. I'm going to continue doing this, and then right before I start the wiring, we'll revisit this and I'll show you the branches that I've kept, and the branches I've removed are going to be obvious, and then we'll start talking about wiring. Okay, one more thing real quick that I wanted to get into before we start with the wiring. One thing you need to look out for on all your trees when you're in this development phase are sucker branches. Sucker branches are, for instance, we have this branch here. You see these two little ones growing out below it? These are sucker branches. And what these things do is sap energy from this branch. This branch is a very decent size for where it is on the tree. And if I don't remove these two little sucker branches here, it's going to draw energy away from here. So be on the lookout for these, because these pop up at all times on your tree. You just want to remove them with scissors. They sprout straight from the base where the other branch grows. Just be on the lookout for those. You kind of be conscious of those. I had a Chinese quince, Pseudonica sinensis. I'm not sure exactly what the exact name is. I'm not really good with pronunciations. But I had one that had really nice branches, and it had these little sucker branches growing out from here, and I thought, oh, well, great. You know, that's just going to help rapidly develop this area. Not the case. These little things ended up sapping all the energy from the main branch I was trying to develop, and it killed the main branch. So I thought that was kind of important to show you and just explain to you what they were, how to look out for them, and make sure that you do remove them, because they will end up draining the energy from your other branch and either weaken it or even kill it in the case of my Chinese quince. I need to go ahead and finish my carving. I'm going to work on this one here and this one here a little bit more, and do my X-Acto knife around the wound areas and do the cut paste, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about wiring. Okay, here we are after the wounds have been dressed and wound paste healed. I cheated a little bit and put some wires on already, just to for the sake of demonstration purposes. What I do when I wire, I take two opposing branches, this branch here and this branch here, for instance. I'm going to do next this branch here and this branch here. What you typically want to do is you want to start from the bottom, work your way up. Just about every branch on the bottom here at this point in time is a sacrifice branch, so we don't really have anything to worry about at the bottom right now as far as wiring is concerned. I'm going to maybe wire this one here. I'm not sure if I want to use any of those branches down there for anything other than a sacrifice branch. Out of all the ones that are down here, this would be the only one that I would keep potentially as a final branch. But what I do when I wire is I'll select two branches like I have already. I will cut a length of wire that's going to be longer than I'm going to need by a bit. I'd much rather have a wire that's too long than too short. Wire's cheap, branches are hard to grow. What I do is I find the two that I want to utilize, like this one and this one here in the front, are the two I'm doing next. I'll take the wire, figure out about the amount I'm going to need, and I will come in here and wrap it around the back. I'll come in, do 1, 2, and stop on that one. Come over here with this one. I like to always try to make at least one loop around the tree, and then come up here and do this one. And when you wire, you want to do it at a 45-degree angle. You want to have nice, neat coils. Something that's going to potentially be on the tree for a while. So you want to make sure it looks good. I typically wire all the way out to the end. This one here, go ahead and wire. Get out of there. Be cautious also while you're wiring these that you try to keep them away from the buds. If you see a bud that's growing, try to, these buds, they split. You want to go up the center where the two split, not on top of it, because if you go on top of it, obviously it damages it and it won't grow. So that's my approach to wiring, pretty simple. Another thing you always want to make sure of, let me grab a couple more pieces of wire here for demonstration purposes. When you're wiring a branch, you want to use the correct size wire. The way you gauge that, and I've used aluminum wire because it's cheap, it's easy to come by for me, and you can get it anywhere. I have three different sizes of wire here. One of them is going to be right for this branch size that I want to wire. Two are going to be wrong. The way that I always figure, and the easiest way to figure, and it comes with time, with the more you wire, the more experience you get, and the easier it is for you to figure out what size you need. But an easy rule of thumb is, let's take this branch for instance right here, it's already been wired. This size wire for this size branch is going to be too big. And the reason I say that is when you take a decent length of it, push it on the branch, if the branch moves a whole bunch before the wire moves, it's too thick. Just the same, too small, the wire bends before the branch moves. So obviously that wire is too small. This size wire, right about the time the branch bends, the wire bends. That lets you know that this gauge would be the proper size wire for this size branch. Now of course it gets bigger as it gets down farther, and I actually did use the largest on the branch down here, but I bent it where I intended to wire it. So for instance, like this one down here, this size wire for down in here is the right size wire for this size branch. So just a quick little FYI on how I figure the right gauge sizes and how I do my wiring.